Good morning, everybody. This is Grant with another Spark Show this morning, and I'm excited about today. I just have a word of encouragement to undo the thought that is killing your spirit insidiously, slowly but surely eating away at your sense of identity, your sense of empowerment, your sense of courage. At Spark, we have three major brand promises, and that's to empower, to educate, but also to encourage. And I'm going to encourage you this morning a little bit with a thought. But before that, we're going to cover, where does the US currency come from? What is SpaceX's success rate? But before all of that, a morning cup of gratitude. Yes, I want to hear from you. I want to hear that you're starting your day grateful for something in your life. So tell me in the comments below, what are you grateful for? What's got you pumped? What's got you excited? How are you starting your day? And of course, you know I'm going to share what I'm grateful for this morning. I'm grateful for a new, fresh start, a new, fresh day. I'm grateful for our team. We had a great meeting with our team today. We're going to be celebrating Marissa's hike, actually, finally. Marissa finished her hike a few weeks ago, and our team is finally able to get together as a team and just celebrate that, and also sow vision for our business's future and our investment future and what's going on together. And by investment, I mean investing into each other and our own businesses. So I'm grateful for the team I am surrounded with and for the opportunities in front of us today. What are you grateful for? It's a beautiful Wednesday out there. What's really sparking you this morning? Share with me. I'd love to hear what you're grateful for this morning. Let's talk about not really other news. We're actually going to go right into the lesson today, starting with how the fake becomes real. Let's talk about this. So in order to talk about the thing that kills your spirit, I first need to give some context on how the fake becomes real. I was been stirred by a story this morning. Maybe you've seen it. How Dogecoin, a ridiculous cryptocurrency, is gaining steam. Yeah, that's gaining steam. We'll talk about that in a second. So how the fake becomes real. Now, I want to talk about currency very quickly. And some of you might know that currency isn't money. Currency is three things. Whenever you think of currency, whether it's seashells or salt or tobacco as currency from the early colonial days, currency is three things. It's a storehouse of value, a standard of measure, and a medium of exchange. And a lot of you might not know that the US dollar was once a meme, a joke, a rebellion of sorts that had no real value. Yet currency, our currency today, the US dollar. See, the colonies, the early colonies had multiple currencies. And I'll give you a reference link for this. The early colonies had multiple currencies. And yes, there was the British pound circulating, but sometimes that was in short supply of actually having British pounds and British currencies. So then over several hundred years of being colonies, they started developing their own colony-based currency. So each little colony had its own currency. And then eventually the Spanish were around. So there was a lot of Spanish currency floating around. And then sometimes there was bartering, but sometimes they actually used tobacco itself as currency. Well, sometimes these currencies themselves would deflate. And British citizens or British soldiers would be visiting the colonies, and they would receive a currency that by the time they arrived back in England, that currency had been devalued. So the British were like, okay. We've got to put a stop to this. These are our colonies. These are our children. We're going to regulate them. So they passed the Currency Acts. And the Currency Acts limited and regulated any currencies generated in the colonies. Now, if you know why the United States became the United States and why the colonists rebelled, it was the weight of all of the different regulations. And of course, the Boston Tea Party being a huge one. And that was the tax that was imposed on the tea, which is why they dumped all the tea in the Massachusetts Bay or whatever it was at the time. So all this continuous weight of regulation, and that's actually what generated the final Currency Acts, push the colonists over the edge. And it pushed one particular colonist over the edge who was one of our earliest marketers, an early colonial marketer. That early colonial marketer's name was Benjamin Franklin. You see, Benjamin Franklin was a lot of things. He was an inventor, he was a thought leader, he was a founding father, but more than anything, Benjamin Franklin was a marketer. Now, back then, they had fancy terms for it. He was a writer. He had his paper. He would publish his books. All of that was the earliest forms of marketing in America. And when the Currency Act came out, Benjamin Franklin said, that's it. We're going to push back. So he created the earliest form of currency, unified currency that we had in the colonies. The colonies had all their own currencies. He created a meme. He was a letterpressman. He owned the presses. And at the time, this was the internet. Having a print was the internet. Having a pressman was the internet. So he pressed out currencies. And on this currency, the reason I call it was a meme, it actually said on this currency, mind your business. Mind your own damn business, Britain, England, mind your own business. And it was a joke. It was a joke meant to unify the people. It was a joke meant to say, stick it to them and say, we're not going to use your currency. It was a fake thing that then evolved into what we know to be the dollar. And we've now since, obviously, our currency doesn't say mind your business on it right now. It's evolved since then. But the earliest vestige of what we know as the US dollar came from that. In fact, if anything, they absolutely did not want to call it British pounds. This is why we have the imperial system versus the metric system. They wanted to cut all ties with England. So we even came up with a different measuring system. And one of those measurements, we refused. We wanted to get off anything that reflected England. So we refused any longer to call our stuff the pound. And then they looked around and said, well, we got all these Spanish coins. Let's call it the dollar or the dollar. This is where we get US dollars. It was a meme. It was what we didn't want to be. The US dollar evolved from an idea that we were snarkily with humor rebelling against heavy regulation. I've got a link for you here if you ever care about money and currency and where it comes from and where it's going. Here, let me just put that in the comments. Boom. Get rid of the period. For some reason, I pasted a period there. Let's just do that there. And then you can see where our modern dollar came from. It came from Benjamin Franklin pushing back as a marketer and a meme generator saying, mind your business. And that actually evolved into our earliest form of unified currency, which eventually became not Confederate dollars, came a currency that we began to use. And then over a series of years and changes, we became the dollar because we didn't want to be the pound. So we used the Spanish dollar. So the US dollar actually comes from snark, humor, and rebellion. A meme. Now, another example of how fake things become real is Dogecoin. For those who don't know and who are still naysayers about cryptocurrency, that's not real money. A lot of those are meme coins or altcoins and joke coins. Well, not every currency that was in early colonial America made it through today. Only a few really fought the currency war and won in terms of adoption and liquidity. And we're in the early days of new currency. That's literally what's happening. And obviously it's technology too. But the best living example of this right now, of how fake things become real, is how the Dogecoin right now was started as a meme, as a Shibu puppy or whatever it is. And it was a complete joke. And the white paper came out and it was a complete joke. And for some reason, the technologists, yes, including Elon, but not only, the technologists started adopting this as a joke towards how ridiculous US regulation has gotten on the US dollar. They're regulating it. They're weighing us down with inflation and taxes. This is literally a repeat of early Americans' rebellion against England. And we're seeing this in cryptocurrency because they can't regulate it because it's decentralized in nature. Think of the colonies, it's decentralized. And the government wants to come in and regulate, but it's all these colonies. It's really difficult to regulate all these individuals. So you jump forward several hundred years, and now you've got the gatekeeper's doing the same thing to the average person. And a lot of these people are dumping tea into Massachusetts Bay, just like we did in Boston, when people are dumping their US dollar and converting it to Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple. Those are the three biggies that will actually kind of carry the day when it's all said and done. But you got also these meme coins that's just like Benjamin Franklin saying, mind your business. Dogecoin says, hey, I'm going to be worth something because you say I'm not. And we're going to make it have value. You see, how fake things become real is that it starts to have value that the gatekeepers do not understand. Gatekeepers do not understand why the people would get behind a meme coin. Well, you weighed them down with regulation. You weighed them down with tax. You told them what they couldn't be. You told them they had to pay their dues. You limit the work of their own hands. They work hard, they make money, and you take just a little too much from what they're willing to give. And they don't, and suddenly they feel disempowered. This is what was going on with early America colonists. They feel disempowered. There's nothing to do. So let's when people get to that place psychologically, they start to get snarky. They start to rebel. They start to get lippy. This is why memes work so well, because the down and out generation that is not looking at having a real future in college, that's not really looking at the ability to own a home, that's not really looking at many prospects. Yes, they're being taken care of, but they're feeling disempowered and no sense of agency over life. This is why memes in general have taken over with some of the young generation. But now you add memes to a currency that they can get real value for because technology is allowing them to do exchange. Imagine if you had indigenous early Americans with beaver skins or whatever it was, and they had a little app that allowed them to swap not a regulated, but a balanced currency with those who have tobacco, so that the currency was good and it was an instant exchange without loss of value. Imagine if you had the technology. Imagine if you had the means. Imagine if you had a frustrated people. Imagine if you had enough regulation and inflation and devaluation going on the main currency. Wouldn't you jump? Our founding fathers certainly did. And these people were the people that we laud as being brilliant people. They weren't some teens in the basement of their room joking about currencies. They were printing their own currency that said, mind your own business. And we applaud one because it was 400 or 500 years old, and we dog the other. This is where Dogecoin is starting to embody the essence of how fake things become real. Give you a quick link on that. It's a Robinhood link, and Robinhood is kind of how I actually trade and acquire my Dogecoin. And for those who are like, okay, Grant, I've avoided this pretty long, and I'm not beating up cryptocurrency. This is not trading advice at all. It's not financial advice, but it's a sociological observation that you are missing out on. That a frustrated people, go read the introduction to the Constitution. Of frustrated people oppressed just a bit too far with the technological means and enough attitude, lippiness, snarkiness, humor, they're going to push back in ways. Go check out Robinhood or CoinMarketCap and just watch and observe. The more frustrated people get, cryptocurrency will pop. Just watch it. Third example, and then I'll actually give you the lesson for today. SpaceX. Now, the people weren't clamoring to go to space per se, but within the industry of space and within our need to be a multiplanetary species, Elon Musk felt oppressed. Now, this guy didn't have necessarily the technology, though he did have the technology. He had his engineering background. He also had the resources and the money, and the establishment of space said it cost $4 billion a flight. Brittany asked this, is there a Bitcoin for beginners course you would recommend? Yes, Brittany, it was my old course, The Smart Crypto Coach. Let me see if I can dust that off, but I'll actually find like a primer video that I'll drop in the Goals and Gratitude group, Brittany, later today. Let me actually capture that. Write it down. Here's a pen. I'm going to write it down right now, and I'm going to do a BTC course for Brittany. Boom. And you want to say that covers more theory, of cryptocurrency more in depth? Absolutely. I can absolutely find that for you. You got to understand several terms. Blockchain, what does that matter? Doesn't matter about Bitcoin so much as the underlying tech. We can talk a little bit about that. So I'll find you, of course, Brittany. Thank you for asking. And so SpaceX comes along and they said, listen, the establishment says it costs $4 billion to get people in space, and it's only government agencies that can put people in space, and it's an unreachable frontier. You put heavy burdens on people, all this expense. You put all these gatekeepers. For example, Elon was buying his rockets used from Russia, old, actually nuclear missiles, and he was trying to just ship those into the country. And of course, this raised red flags and all this regulation and prevention. And it finally caused Elon to throw up his hands and say, that's it. Picture the colonists, picture the rebels buying Dogecoin or Bitcoin or Ethereum. You've got Elon Musk saying, that's it, all this regulation, I'm just going to build my own rockets. I got the technology, I'm an engineer, I've got a bit of my own money that I could burn through to get to space. We're going to do this. How fake things become real is what we're talking about. How the US dollar started from a mean piece of paper that said mind your business to the US dollar today. How Dogecoin, a piece of technology that really has very little value, begins to have value because the thing that the people value is agency. The thing that the people value is freedom. This is why State of the Spark's core value is freedom. Because it's core to the human spirit. We crave to be set free, to be released, to have agency, and to succeed or fail. We would rather fail exercising freedom than succeed at exercising lack of agency. Any day of the week. SpaceX says, that's it, I'm going to do this. And all the naysayers down to the government, down to NASA, said, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. We're going to put rockets in space. They had 5 failures. Why did this become a zeitgeist of our day? Why did people who never cared about space suddenly start caring about space? The story of how fake things become real. People will throw their money at Starlink, the satellite dishes. They'll throw their money at buying a Tesla. They'll throw their money and look for ways to invest in SpaceX, all because they believe they are putting their values behind something they value, which is agency and freedom. And what Elon Musk is exercising is a living metaphor, a living myth of saying, that's it, I'm going to buck the weight of oppression you're putting on me, and I'm going to down to gravity. It's thrilling to watch a rocket even defy gravity, to defy the institution, to defy gravity, to defy all the people that said no, and to make it a reality. You could see that people don't realize this. SpaceX has flown 124 launches in the time I believe NASA has done 5 or 10, maybe. We could look that up. It's had 5 failures out of 124 launches. You're going to fail. I know I'm going to fail. But then I'm going to improve, and then I'm going to improve. And if you look at the chart, and I'll have to pull it up somewhere, the first 10 or 20 flights were from brand new rockets that they had to pay money for, but they started dialing in and figuring it out. They started unifying the process. And I think the last 75% of flights have been on reusable rockets, meaning the price drops dramatically, the profit margins go up dramatically, and now they can do a volume of flights. How fake things become real. Elon says, we're going to do this. The people say, we want to see you do this. And we start to value that thing. How fake things become real is that when you have an oppressed body of people and they're ready to rebel, and you give them something humorous, something joke-worthy, something completely ostentatious, that thing begins to be valued by them. And when it becomes to be valued by them, they start to value it more. It starts to actually manifest. It starts to become real. So what kills your spirit? I made a promise that how to kill your spirit is this. Gravity is just a fact of life. It weighs you down. The oppression of the institutions is a fact of life. We're going to walk outside today, and every business will try to take money out of our pocket and put it in theirs. Every leader, intentionally or unintentionally, maliciously or not, will attempt to borrow your power for themselves. Basically take power out of your pocket and put it in there. And hopefully you align with their goals, but oftentimes we do not. The world will seek, this is why scripture says it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. You spend an 8-hour day walking amongst the people, and it's good for many reasons. But the small, slow things is that you give over your power, you give over your resources, and it looks like this. Hey, I don't know if you can do that. Hey, that's a little too risky. Hey, I'm not sure if that's possible. And you start dreaming your big dream. You're going to be the best X. You're going to be the best Y. You're going to improve. You're going to master this skill. You're going to master this domain. And slowly but surely, you just get eaten away. Your energy gets eaten. Your power gets eaten. Your belief in yourself get eaten. How to kill your spirit is to listen to the weight of oppression and regulation and requirements. Now, you can't pretend they're not there. Britain really had a currency act. You couldn't pretend it's not there. And for those who gave in to the weight of that, economically, they became challenged. Dogecoin can't pretend that the US dollar isn't there. It has to actually lean into its strengths. We can't pretend that it's difficult to master real estate investment or build a small business. We can't pretend it's not difficult to hire people, to come up with profit margins. We can't pretend that. But if we start to own, maybe I'm just not cut out for this, slowly our spirit gets killed. Maybe they're right and I'll never actually make it. Maybe they're right, I'll have to do it this way. Maybe they're right, I eventually have to jack up my prices just to get there, or I have to play by the same rules. As soon as you start accepting those sorts of social demands and social requirements, you kill your spirit. There's so much going on today. There's so much eating away at your power that the idea that you could master something and become great becomes a joke. It becomes a little too difficult. You're just becoming a meme, a joke. You're too small cap. Dogecoin has a small market cap. You're too much of a small fry. You're not really making an impact. Now, you might not think that you're consciously accepting these thoughts. No, I don't believe that about myself. You might think you're overcoming this because you're getting up there and you're being persistent. I feel you. But it's not enough because it's not dreaming. It's just you're shoring yourself up against the outer oppression, but you're not rising over it. As I said before, it is part of the human spirit to seek freedom. It is part of the human spirit to seek agency. This is, like I said, why freedom is the core value of Spark Citizens and State of the Spark. But if you put enough regulation and requirements and demands and devalue people in their dreams and they start to believe it, it'll crush their spirit. But I believe in people. I believe that there is a higher way. I'm more like the existentialist. I believe in inherent good in people. And when people are oppressed enough, they'll start to seek an alternative. The lesson today is simply this quote from a samurai who saw these similar things. This was literally from A Quiet Time. This book gets richer and more relevant every day. Called me out. I was thinking about Dogecoin. I was thinking about the stories that I slowly believe. That I can't master this thing. I can't run with the greats. Yeah, I'll build a good business. Yeah, my partners and I will build good businesses and we'll make good money. I don't just want to make good money. I want to master this thing. I want to become a master at the thing I put my hands to. I don't just want to make a good website company. I want to make one of the best website companies around, one of the most profitable, exciting website companies around. I don't want to just build a company, a lifestyle brand, a life coaching company that launches people with State of the Spark, where we ignite lives of explosive significance. I don't just want to make a good one. I want to make a great one. I want to master impacting people. I want to master this thing. And when I start believing, I'll just do a good enough one. Why? It's hard out there. Have you seen gas prices? It's hard out there. Have you seen these people don't have hope for a job? The samurai said this. He said, it is spiritless to think that you cannot attain to that which you have seen and heard the masters attain. It is spiritless to believe that you cannot attain that which you have seen and heard the masters attain. From 1600 samurai writing to young samurai, this has been a problem that plagues the human species. It kills your spirit. It is spiritless to think that you cannot attain to that which the masters have attained. He says this, the masters are people, you're a person. Literally, the master, right here, the translation actually says the masters are men, you're a man. If you think that you will be inferior in doing something, you will be on that road very soon. This is ancient material. How are we losing sight of this? If you think that you will be inferior, you will be on that road very soon. It is spiritless for you to think that you could not obtain mastery. How fake things become real and how to enliven your spirit, how to bring life to your spirit is not just to say, well, I'm gonna stand up against people naysaying about my goals and dreams. That's not enough. You have to actually believe in the bigger vision. Now, will you attain it? Like you as a confidant, if you and I were to sit over coffee, the probability that you or I become Elon or become Tony Robbins or become Brian Tracy or pick the star in your field. And if you don't know the star in your field, are you even playing to win? Not against them, not against society, but against mediocrity. We are not, and what is mediocrity? We think of mediocrity as the worst. We think mediocrity is actually like being in the ditch, being in the sewer. Mediocrity is just being good enough, being the median. Mediocrity is being, and we think of average. Think of this. We think of average as being the worst, being like filthy. You don't want to be average. That's the worst. No, average is the median. Average is when you wake up and you stand up straight and you go, okay, I'm going to face the naysayers, and you go about your day and say, I'm just going to work and I'm just going to prove to you by my persistence that I'm good enough. And this is good enough. That's average. And we say we don't want to be average. We want to be above average, right? We say that we don't want to be mediocre. That is literally what mediocre is. I'm just going to be good enough. We were made to dream bigger. And what we're talking about is killing your spirit versus lifting your spirit up. You have to lift your spirit up. Now, again, as a confidant, and you said, Grant, what's the probability that will be A-listers? Probability is not 0, but definitely not 100%. But that's not what we're talking about in terms of probabilities and strategies and how to do that. What we're talking about is how to enliven your spirit. If you are struggling with a spirit that's vibrant and alive, if you are struggling to have a vibrant and alive spirit, you need to believe you can master the thing. Your business, your family, your health. I want the most apex health I've ever had in my life. And fitness and health, I want to master my body. Now, when I go out and have breakfast this morning, it might prove otherwise, but I'm going to keep stepping up to the mic. The chances that I go to a bodybuilding contest are slim to none. Not 0, but not 100%. But we're not talking about strategy. We're talking about enriching my spirit. And to go through life with an enriched spirit is to go through life believing, speaking about, talking about that you will not be inferior or even average. It is spiritless to think that you cannot attain to that which you have seen and heard the masters attain. I am not telling you that to be considered a success. You have to be the next Elon, the next Steve Jobs, the next Einstein. I am not telling you that for you to go to your grave and for me to respect you, you have to be the next Tony Robbins, the next president of the United States. I'm not telling you that. I'm telling you that to live day in and day out with an enriched spirit, with a spirit that is alive, you have to believe and think that you can. Your efforts can be 10% over average instead of 100 or 1,000. I'm not saying you have to have the money of Bill Gates, the body of Arnold Schwarzenegger, the record of who's the swimmer. I'm not telling you you need to do those things to be considered a success or be respected by me. I'm saying that to walk through life with a rich spirit, you need to believe those things about yourself. This is what I mean when I say be your own hype beast. It is in a different bucket than actual success. We're talking about walking with an alive spirit, with a spirit that is alive, with a spirit that is sparked. To do that, you must go through life. You must do the opposite of the warning of the samurai. It is spiritless to think you cannot. Then it is spiritful to think that you can attain that which you have seen and heard the masters attain. The masters are men. You are a man. The masters are people. You are a person. If you think that you will be inferior in doing something, you'll be on that road very soon. If you think you'll be average, just good enough, that is your road. We know it takes a lot of energy to break gravity. We know it takes a lot of energy to break the weight of oppression of those around us. But if we can do it with humor and believe that we are capable of it, we will walk with an enriched spirit. That's my message for you today. Listen, go out there, have a killer day. If you need any help, tools, training, visit us at stateofthespark.com. If you want to carry on any component of this conversation, from Bitcoin and crypto to living a spiritful life, visit us at the Facebook Goals and Gratitude group. But no matter what you do today, remember the mission: igniting lives of explosive significance, starting with your own.